Welcome to Flashback Favorites. I'm Music Mike. Thanks for joining me again. Let's take a trip to Cleveland, Ohio for one of Cleveland's biggest and most commercially successful groups of all time. That group is Beau Coup.
Beau Coup, the iconic Cleveland rock band of the 1980s, is celebrating its 30th anniversary with a concert Friday, February 13th at Hard Rock Roxino Northfield Park Hard Rock Live in Northfield. Tickets are $30 to $120. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster or go to the band's Facebook page. Beau Coup lead singer Frank Amato talked about the concert and band with Kid Mitchell at WZOO Radio recently. So Great Wave Communications shoehorned ourselves into the studio as well to do our own interview.
Well, you know, my father was a singer. He recorded on Dot Records when he was younger. He was on a TV show, talent show back in the late 50s, 60s called the Gene Carroll Show. That he
remember that.
He actually won the Gene Carroll Show, and he signed to Dot Records. So it's kind of in my family, the music thing. And when I was about, 15, 16 years old, I started playing, with friends, just kind of woodshedding it, a basement band kind of thing, and putting together local bands. With my, school friends. And it just progressed from that into 1976. I started pursuing an original music career. So I put together a band called Thrills and Company, and in that band was Neil Giraldo, who was the guitar player, or is the guitar player and husband of Pat Benatar. And he's from Parma, Ohio. And we started doing a band together. We were doing like a funk rock fusion band, and Rodney Psycho, who plays percussion with Michael Stanley and the Resonators now, he was also in Breathless with Jonah Coslin back in the day, and Gary Jones, who also plays with Michael, he was in that band. And we had two guys, Daddy O'Don Wade and Norman Lamar Crum. So we had a black rhythm section back in 1976. We were a multiracial band. And we knocked around for a while playing in Cleveland. We went out to Los Angeles, tried to make it out there. We went out there for about a year, and we came back. And after that is when Neil left and started doing the thing with Rick Derringer, and then eventually wound up with Pat Benatar. But I just kept kicking around after that, and had a couple other bands that were original bands. Taskmaster is one, and that band was Eric Singer was the drummer in that band, who's now the drummer in Kiss. And Paul Christensen, who plays keyboards and sax, he played keyboards and sax in our band. He also plays with Michael Stanley and the Resonators now. And Mike McGill, who was Beau Coup's original guitar player, was the guitarist in that band. And we did a bunch of original songs. We were working with the Belkins back then, and we did some coffee break concerts and stuff like that. WMMS, right? And so after that, when that kind of disbanded for a short time, I worked with Kim Simmons of Savoy Brown, and I went and toured with Savoy Brown for a little while. And then right after that is when Beau Coup formed. It was 1983 when we started to get together. We didn't actually become Beau Coup till 84, but we knocked around with a few different people and different names in 83 until we finally started calling ourselves Beau Coup in 84, and that's what we released, Still in My Heart, on Agora Records. That was our first single. WGCL started playing that record, and then it just went on, progressed from there. It was Still in My Heart, and then Somewhere Out of the Night came out the following year, and WMMS started to play that record. We were charting in all, the back page of all, like R&R and all the trade magazines, and we were starting to make some headway. That's when we We signed with Scotty Brothers Records back in '84 when Still in My Heart started to get a lot of attention. And then the record was released, finally. The Born and Raised on Rock and Roll record was released on Amherst Records and also A&M Records worldwide throughout Canada and Europe and Japan. So, and that's kind of how, it happened. I just started, singing the records, kind of like the song Born and Raised on Rock and Roll,
Yeah.
Learn to sing off the radio. That's kind of, the
I
story
was going to
of my
say the
life.
song sounds like your experiences performing and growing up in Cleveland.
Exactly.
Yeah, you really started in a kind of golden age of music in Cleveland because Bruce Springsteen he kept coming back to Cleveland, it seemed like every few months because he got such a good reception there.
Right, well-
Michael Stanley Band was big there. Eric Carmen.
Right, Eric Carmen and the Raspberries.
Right.
Very big band. The choir before them, which some of those guys became the Raspberries. They had that record, It's Cold Outside.
Right.
And yeah, it was Cleveland was the jump-off point for the Midwest for the record industry, because the promotional guys used to do this thing called the coffee cup theory, where if you take the map and you put the coffee cup in a centralized location, and that ring is the region that you would work. So Cleveland was a centralized location to be able to do Toledo, Cincinnati, Columbus, Detroit, even as far as Chicago, Buffalo, so it was all within that region, Erie, PA, so it was a great place to break new artists. And plus we had very powerful radio stations in Cleveland, WMMS back in the late 70s and early 80s, just a powerhouse. It's like pretty much anything they got behind. And, and that was their partnership with the Agora, because they used to do the coffee break concerts. And Agora was the very first, our very first management. It was like Hank LeConte Jr., whose father, Henry LeConte, owned the Cleveland Agora. He was our first manager, along with his good friend Joey Militello. And that's kind of how we started. So our very first record was released on Agora Records. It was a vinyl release.
Like the Gatsby way, and the music plays on and on and on.
Well, what happened was, Still in My Heart was out in '84, and then Somewhere Out in the Night came out '85.
Okay.
Born and Raised on Rock and Roll was out around '86, and then Sweet Rachel came out in '87.
Okay.
So it was like every year there was like another single that was being released. Then we also released Jane around that time too, and that's when we did a lot
Jane
of our
Scott from the Plain Dealer.
right,
Yes.
right, and that's when we did a lot of our bigger shows, and we played like the old Front Row Theater. We played the Nautica stage. We played Public Hall. Played a lot of the bigger shows, and and we toured around the region. But we got a lot of airplay in like different like regions around the country, like in the Carolinas, in Arizona, in Florida, some places in California, and in upstate New York. But the record never broke in the New York and Los Angeles market. If that record, Sweet Rachel, would have broken in New York and L.A., then it probably would have been a top 10 record at that point.
Rachel, what do I do now?
We were influenced heavily by the pop music sound of Cleveland, which was always a big vocal sound, like the Raspberries and bands like that, And one of our main songwriters, Dennis Lewin, has a classical music background, and So we kind of blended, incorporated that, but we didn't really change that much. We just basically did our own thing. We didn't try to force what we were not. We tried to stay true to who we were.
'Cause I'm a man that finds himself giving all I can. And then you tell me time will bring us closer at hand.
We're doing a 30-year anniversary reunion show at the Hard Rock Casino in Northfield Park. And the show starts at 8 o'clock. And it's going to feature all the original members of Beau Coup, including Mike McGill, who's our original guitar player, who hasn't actually played with the band in over 27 years.
You gonna go in the day before and do a little practicing with them? Or?
Oh, we're gonna do a little bit more than just the day before. We have all the original guys. We have Dennis Lewin on keyboards, Don Kruger on drums, Bill March on bass, Mike McGill on guitar. We also have Paul Sidoti, who plays with that country pop star girl who's like the biggest country pop star in the world right now. I can't really mention her name, but he plays guitar for her, and he's going to be playing with us because luckily he doesn't start his rehearsals till about 3 days after our show to go out on a world tour with her.
So why can't you mention her name?
Well, because legally he's not allowed. I can mention his name, but legally he's not allowed to use her name in any kind of promotional.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's not very swift of them, is it?
I don't. I really don't want to get him in trouble.
Yeah.
So you guys know who it is.
Yeah.
She just turned 25. She's tall, skinny, and has blonde hair.
She was tailor-made to sing.
She was tailor-made to do what she does.
So, give me the date again.
It's February the 13th, which is
Okay.
Friday the 13th.
Okay, so it's good luck.
Right. The day before Valentine's Day. It's
So
Valentine's
that's
Day.
kind of appropriate.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day weekend.
But anybody who's got a significant other named Rachel,
That would
better
be a
be
great
there.
place to bring her.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you could get them all together and sing to them all.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Maybe we'll do that. We'll get how many Rachels, and we'll get them all together on stage and sing to them all. Well, if we were doing it today, we probably would be, in our basement with our iPhones making videos, which you can actually do with an iPhone. You can actually make videos, and we would be recording. We'd have our iPads and GarageBand, and we'd be making records with that, and putting it up on social media, putting it up on SoundCloud, and all the different ways that you can get your music out there today.
And you can be a success doing that.
There are very, very many people that have started that way. Make a great record and put it up on YouTube, and just promote it through social media, and you can do it. I did watch a lot of friends of mine go on and become doctors, lawyers, and other things while I was still running headfirst into a brick wall trying to make it in the record business.
Are you happier than they are now?
That's hard to say. I'm pretty happy. I'm happy. I have a great family, great wife. I've been married to the same woman for since 1992. So
Wow.
That's a feat in itself, right there. And most people I know are working on their their third marriage.
Right. Well, listen, before we end, you got to tell me some funny story involving some famous rock person that you were involved in. So,
Let's see. Funny story, rock person. Well, this one's not very. I have a couple of those. Actually, first one is we played back in I think it was '87. We played in Columbus with Men Without Hats, and it was WNCI beach party that they did every year at the Hyatt Convention Center. And they just filled the place with sand and had a big beach party. So it was a split bill with Beau Coup and Men Without Hats, safety dance. And basically what happened was they had hired our lighting director's company to do lights for the show, not knowing that he actually worked for our band. And so when we were doing this, this sound check during the day, their manager came over and was like, hey, listen, I only want you to, let these guys only use like half the lights, and and it was supposed to be a equal split bill, So he looked at the guy and goes, okay. He goes, that's great. As long as if you guys want to be, men without lights, then that's great. I'll just, when they're done, I'm going to take my lights and go home. So that was one. I had another experience. I guess there's a new exhibit at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right now, where Jules Belkin and his wife have an exhibit of all the things that Belkin Productions.
Wow,
did.
that would be
Yeah. So and I think one of the things that's in there is they're talking about the Swingos Rock and Roll, Keg and Quarter Rock and Roll Hotel.
Yeah.
Like every band that ever came to Cleveland stayed at Swingos downtown, and. That would be the place. Like you go to a show at the Agora or really anywhere, any show, you could go there after the show. And if you hung out in the bar, most of the times these guys would come down to the bar and you get to meet the bands. So I did that one time. Jack Bruce played and Ginger Baker played at the Agora. And I went there to Swingos in the bar afterwards and, to hang out. And I got to meet Jack Bruce and he was kind of drunk. He was hanging out with these two bleach blonde buxom groupies, and so I got to talking to him. He was pretty nice, and having a background in audio, I kind of mentioned that I'm like, you guys were fantastic, but I thought the live mix could have been a little bit better, and then. He just snapped at me. He was like, what the hell do you know? And he started yelling at me. I was like, so. Finally, I just couldn't take him yelling at me anymore, and I told him, I go, you know what? I go, you're just a drunken, stupid, Englishman or whatever, and you'll never be Eric Clapton.
So you did you have done engineering though, right? So you do know what you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it was like. There was no reason for him to yell at me. When you're on stage, you don't know what the mix sounds like. You have no idea.
Right.
All you hear is the slap back in the room from the sound coming back at you and, the stage monitors and what you hear on stage. But you have no idea what that mix really sounds like out in the room. So I was just, giving him a heads up going, it could have been
And it wasn't a slam at him.
No, I said, you guys were great. But... the mix could have been a little bit better. Maybe the sound guy was his brother or something. I don't know. I don't know. But he was pretty upset with me. So, but rest in peace, by the way, because he did pass away
Yes, he
this
did.
this last few months, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.